Well, good afternoon, and welcome to this phenomenal occasion. Washington College is about to embark on an auspicious new enterprise in environmental education. This moment epitomizes one of the things I love so much about Washington College. We build interpersonal relationships that this place fosters, particularly among those who are committed to environmental stewardship and the way of life that we enjoy here on the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Now, we wouldn't be here today honoring noted environmentalist Truman Seaman and J. Griswold without the groundwork laid by Washington College Chair Larry Culp and Clinton Daly of Brown Advisory, great friends to both Truman and Jay. Thank you for bringing us this moment. Now, we'll hear in a moment from Larry, but I'd like now to turn over the podium to Dr. John Seidel. John has led this entire effort for many, many years. He's worked with the college, worked with the board, to bring us to the point that we are now ready to dedicate a building that will make a huge difference in this college, make a huge difference in the waterfront, and make a huge difference to the town of Chestertown.
Thank you. We're going to be giving a lot of applause to individuals today, and it's all well-deserved. But what I'd like to do for a minute is just ask you to look out there and check out that river and give a big round of applause to the Chester River. That beautiful river is why we are here. The Chester feeds our nation's largest estuary, the Chesapeake Bay. Their waters are a foundation for life. They're a foundation for so much of our economy. They're a foundation for all the recreational opportunities that give us a quality of life. You know, that land of pleasant living that we all love so much. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to future generations to understand, to appreciate, and to really protect these assets. And that's really fundamentally why we're here today and why we're doing what we are doing. And, you know, if we're perfectly honest, from an institutional standpoint, that river is critical to Washington College as an institution. It's an absolutely essential asset. We're in a time when higher education and traditional liberal arts colleges are facing very serious challenges. I don't think any of us here are not aware of that. Shifting demographics, tightened finances, changes in how people perceive and value higher education. And the fact is that the colleges that thrive in this new environment, that really do well and stand out, are going to be those that build to strength, that identify competitive niches, that do things that their competitors simply cannot match. Our competition can't build a Chester River. Our competitors, if they're not on the Chesapeake Bay, can't will that to change. If their students don't have the incredible array of habitats, ecosystems, natural resources, and people that we have within just minutes of this spot, they can't make those resources magically appear. So this river, our rural location, are Washington College's secret weapons, and they really are. And we're here to celebrate a major step forward in utilizing those advantages to the benefit of our students and this 235-year-old institution. So I've been asked to tell you about the history of this project and what it will do. And for me, the refrain in that message is timing is everything. Timing really is everything. Because back in 2008, Washington College had the opportunity to buy 2 waterfront parcels adjoining our boathouse lot. And it was kind of a complicated deal involving Stepney, a large tract right across Quaker Neck Road over there. And the question being asked at that time is this something that Washington College should do? Should we take on this additional property? And our Board of Visitors and Governors, a really amazing group of dedicated people, so many of whom are here today, were asking that question at a board retreat in September of 2008. And at that time, Brian Matthews, then VP for Athletics, and I pitched a vision to the board, and it was a vision for a waterfront campus that took advantage of this amazing river and had three major elements. First, a new boathouse. Now, if you look over there, that concrete block building, I think, started life as a pickled herring factory or a pickle factory or something back in, the early 1900s. It's a rather unimpressive building. But out of that building, we have nationally ranked rowing and sailing teams. I mean, folks that do an absolutely amazing job. John Wagner, standing back there, tried to make this a premier program along with his colleagues in athletics. And by hook and by crook and with duct tape and string and donations, they built all these boats. And they had a vision for a new boathouse for many years, but it just couldn't seem to happen. This was an opportunity. Second, in this vision, was capitalizing on the recreational opportunities on the river. Here in Chestertown, if you haven't noticed, we can't always match that wide array of dining, ethnic dining, restaurants, and other things that our urban colleagues have. But we have the outdoors. We have the river. We can offer a quality of life that others would just die to have. Third, we envisioned an academic building that would be a home for any scholar, whether it's a student or whether it's a faculty member, or for that matter, staff and members of the public who are interested in the environment. We saw facilities that would allow us to operate our research boats, bring samples directly off of the river into the lab, have classrooms and laboratories right at the water's edge. We tracked our competition, and we felt that if we were able to do that, to pull together that tripartite vision, a waterfront campus, we would really be setting ourselves apart. Everybody was pretty enthusiastic in that room. It was a compelling case, I thought. And timing is everything, because something strange happened at about the time we were wrapping up our presentation. Phones started to ding or buzz. People started to get concerned looks on their faces. A couple of folks got up and quietly excused themselves and walked out into the hall. What had happened was that the news had just broke that Lehman Brothers had collapsed. So it was a really pretty inauspicious time to start trying a major new capital program. So timing is everything. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. Nevertheless, we purchased the land. We're sitting on it, and it's a beautiful site. The view of the river, I think, speaks for itself. These grasses, the wildflowers that you see over here, that habitat for pollinators, are based on an example that has been pioneered out at Chino Farms, 10 minutes away from here. And many of you have, I think, seed packets, or we have some available here that will enable you to perhaps recreate some of those pollinator gardens. But back in 2008, I got to tell you, this was not a very pretty site. This parcel that we're sitting on actually had, its last two occupants were an oil transfer company, a petroleum company, and an agrochemical company. And it was a long legacy of pollution right here. There was a fertilizer plant here about 1900. Then a rail spur came right down to the water here with a large dock that went out into the water. There was a petroleum transfer station by 1929, and that kind of use stayed throughout the 20th century, so that by the time we got it, it was recognized by EPA as two brownfield parcels. They were very badly polluted. Now, you don't need to be nervous sitting here or drinking, because we subsequently did a $2 million remediation, and we cleaned it up to residential standards. So we went a step beyond what we were asked to do. The planning for the building, on the other hand, was pretty slow going, not least because we've been through 5 presidents, I think, now, over the last 9 years since this process started. But as frustrating as the process was, hiatus sometimes is positive, and things were not standing still at Washington College. So bear with me, and let me just enumerate a couple of things, because I don't think these are widely recognized, and they deserve to be. First of all, our academic programs in the environment absolutely surged. The McLean program in environmental studies, a program prior to that, was elevated from a program to a full department. Professors Leslie Sherman and Brian Scott co-chaired the program. I know they're out here with a bunch of our other colleagues. Could you guys just stand up and say hello? They do a phenomenal job. Andrew's back there, all the way in the back. Charlie Kem, Robin Van Meter, and Rebecca Fox are here as well. They added a BS, a Bachelor of Science, to the BA, and they offer absolutely amazing experiences to our students in the field and in the lab. Working with faculty in physics and chemistry, they developed the geochemistry lab, and it houses National Science Foundation ICP-MS, it's a fancy acronym for a mass spectrometer. The number of graduating seniors in environmental science and studies has more than doubled since 2010. That's a pretty remarkable figure. We hired dynamic new faculty across the board, not just in environmental science, many of whom were interested in the environment. That's a measure of how biology and other natural sciences have grown. but it's been interdisciplinary. Anthropology has grown from a joint program or a joint department into a standalone department, and it's essentially a department of environmental anthropology. We instituted Sandbox, an environmental art program, which had legs. So I think you can see a trajectory here, right? A lot of investments in the environment. And in addition to the stellar academics, the resources that we provide for students to do applied work has exploded. The Center for Environment and Society has come into its own. I think we have something like 23 FTEs there now who manage 2 research boats, one of which is right out here. It's a world-class geospatial lab. Some of those folks are here today. Community programs in energy and in sustainability. We've got a flagship interdisciplinary environmental program called the Chesapeake Semester. I'm going to ask the students there to stand up. These guys go out into the community. They will spend about 50 days on the road this semester meeting the people, seeing the places that are so important to this environment, to this place that we call home. And then we also have, thanks to Harry Sears, added the 5,000 acres of Chino Farm. And that's habitat restoration there. So projects pioneered there are now spreading across the rest of the eastern shore with native warm season grasses being used as a buffer between field and stream. I think that over 5 years we are going to put in something like 68 miles of those kinds of buffers with state funding, with other sources, and it was really proven out at Chino Farms. During this period, we also adopted a strategic plan where one of 7 major objectives is for us to be a leader in the multidisciplinary study of the environment. And then our board chair, Larry Culp, upped the ante at our campaign launch last May. We launched a new campaign, the Forge a Legacy campaign, and he challenged us not just to be a leader, but to be the best, to think about what it takes to make our programs the best in the country for a college of our type. So if timing is everything, this is the time, right? This is the time for us to make that surge forward to truly become the best in class. And I think that the building that is going to go on here, on this site, is one of the last pieces. It's not the only one, but it's an extremely important one. So what will this building do for us? What's going to happen in it? Well, first of all, there will be labs that will enable us to take samples directly from the river into the laboratory. I mean, right now, that boat was out there with a lab. The lab had to be split in half. Some of the students sit in the sun on the dock, others go out on the water. Now what we can do is have those students who are waiting actively engaged in a classroom or in a laboratory. They can switch and samples can go immediately into the lab rather than having to be carted all the way up to campus. There will be a clean lab for instrumentation, a lab dedicated to the Chester River Watershed Observatory and our STEM programs. Those STEM programs, by the way, not only reached Washington College undergrads, but reached over 3,000 local K-12 kids last year and something like 230 teachers. There'll be an archaeology lab for terrestrial and marine work, which enables us to look back and figure out how we got to the place where we are today. We'll have classroom spaces adjacent, home offices for the teaching staff of the Center for Environment and Society, student and staff space that can double for events. And then the building will be a home for anyone on our campus who has an interest in the environment or maybe just a love for the water. And I don't care whether it's a biologist or an artist, whether it's an archaeologist or a poet. They are going to have a place that they can call home that's right here on the river that we love, where they can see it and get engaged with it. It will be a sustainable building that will be a teaching tool in and of itself. It's going to show people how we can build responsibly on reclaimed, once polluted land, even when it's right on the water's edge. And it's designed to work with the rest of Chestertown's waterfront, which is an incredible asset to this community. With Semans-Griswold Environmental Hall, we're truly going to have 1 foot on land and 1 foot in the water, as befits our location on this incredible estuary. And then I think it's important that last but not least, we remember that our mission, our core mission, is our students. We're engaging with young men and women at a critical time in their lives. And again, timing is everything. This is the right time for us to work with them to forge a future where they're going to have a true impact upon the world around them and on the people around them. They're at the point where they're right now deciding what they're going to do with their professional careers, what they're going to do with their lives. They're absorbing information. They're gaining skills, the maturity and the confidence that they're going to need to succeed. When we do our job right, They not only do that, but they learn to be engaged citizens who care about the world around them and the communities that they live in. And especially they're developing as leaders, engaged leaders who really have the moral courage that President Landgraf talks so compellingly about. And I think it's especially important that, or fitting, that we are recognizing several people this afternoon who have been exemplary leaders, who are of different types, they have different approaches, but they actually fulfill that role model that we are seeking to demonstrate to our students perfectly. So we're going to meet several of them this afternoon, and I'm going to turn the podium over to, is it to Larry, I believe, to go next. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you for your leadership to bring us to this point where this day is possible. You are truly an inspiration to us all. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. This is a special day for Washington College, probably the best time of the year to be on the Eastern Shore, late summer. We got a break with the humidity and the temperature, and I think these dark clouds aren't going to rain on us just yet. As John indicated, we wanted to take a few moments before the official groundbreaking and recognize some of those that have really made this possible. Because so much of what we're going to do here at Semans-Griswold really is a part of a mosaic of work that has been done in years past and important work still to come. Work that many of our students, be they members of the Chesapeake semester, environmental science majors, or just others that are touched by the programs that the Center for Environment and Society are going to complete during their lives. The college periodically awards our Lifetime Achievement Award in conservation. And this is a way for us to recognize those that have made a truly indelible impact on the environment, both with respect to the region here around the Chesapeake Bay, but also more broadly. The inaugural award was given in May of 2014 to Truman Seaman. Truman Those of us who know Truman know him to be a quiet giant in both the environmental realm and many other spheres of life. And his impact and influence is really hard to capture in a few moments, in a few sentences. But I think those of us who understand what Truman's done, particularly with respect to the Chesapeake, owe forever a debt of gratitude to Truman. And we were truly touched to have the opportunity to give him that award 2.5 years ago. So here at the groundbreaking, we thought it would be fitting to slightly change the name of our award. And from here forward, those lucky recipients will be recipients of the Truman Seaman's Lifetime Achievement Award in Conservation. I know Truman's mad at me that we're doing this. I suspect he's even more angry with me now, but we're happy and pleased to have that opportunity. We have 2 recipients of the Siemens Award we would like to recognize now. Will Baker, would you please join me at the podium? It's all in good fun. I promised Will that he did not need to speak, so he can always take the mic. But Will needs no introduction, I know, to this crowd. Will has been the president of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation for 35 years, and is the leader of the largest nonprofit organization charged with preserving and protecting the precious Chesapeake. Will's impact on our region will be felt for years to come. Will's tireless efforts have yielded real results that we see in a whole host of measures and metrics with respect to the bay, those important bay grasses being some of the most important in my eyes. Will's been a long-standing friend to Washington College. a member of our Board of Visitors and Governors from 1998 to 2000, and he also received an honorary doctorate, Dr. Baker, from Washington College as well. So we're very pleased to honor Will today. Clearly, while we can look at the progress that we've seen on the Chesapeake, the challenges remain. Whether it be our friends north of the Mason-Dixon line, just up the Susquehanna, or our friends up the Potomac in Washington, there is work to do. And I think every one of us should be proud and pleased that we have someone with Will's steadfastness and vision leading the charge to make sure that our Chesapeake is indeed saved. Will, on behalf of Washington College, it is my honor to award you the Truman Seaman Lifetime Achievement Award in Conservation. Photographer right there.
Want me there?
No, well, yeah, I want you in the picture. Well, that's what he thinks of us for the most part, right? Thanks, Will. Thank you. Yeah, it's good they are not mic'd, right? let me tell you. Would Keith Campbell please join me at the podium? Keith Campbell has been a champion of the Chesapeake for decades. Through his Campbell Foundation, he has educated and engaged countless members of our community across a broad spectrum, stakeholders and others with the potential to impact positively and negatively the Chesapeake and the environment at large. As a businessman, Keith understands how important the environment is to the economy, and a healthy environment lends itself to a healthy regional economy. Keith understands that it's not just about the science, and the challenges with respect to the environment aren't solved strictly through money. Keith's strategic insight, his passion for real innovation, let alone real results, forges a leadership model that we hope to instill in the students that come through our environmental program and through Washington College in the building that will reside here in just a few short years. Keith, thank you for your leadership and your support, and it's our honor to give you the Truman Seaman Lifetime Achievement Award in Conservation. You may.
I wasn't forbidden to take the mic. This won't take more than 15 or 20 minutes. I just want to say that this is a wonderful opportunity to say thank you to all of those who have supported Washington College in its endeavors with the Environmental Center, and in honoring our two honorees in terms of the name on the building. I can't think of two more deserving people, but I will say that my relationship with Truman has been extraordinary in the sense that he has been a wonderful friend, a great mentor to me, and an individual who is at the highest levels of integrity, honesty, and all the good things that make important people really important people. So, Truman, I'd like to say thank you, especially for all you've done for me in terms of supporting me. Lastly, I would simply like to leave you with a very simple plea. We have a problem with the climate, and we have a problem with water. And our climate and our water problems are all about disposition of detritus, trash, and trash meaning nitrogen, effluent, you name it. We need to stop this, and we can do this. And we as a country can lead the world in an energy usage and revolution. And if we do that, we will gain the economic advantage of doing it before we let someone else do it. So be mindful of the fact that protecting the air and water that we depend for our lives on is also a very strong economic driver for the United States of America moving into the future. Thank you again. I appreciate the honor. I'm deeply honored.
Truman, Will, Keith, thank you for your leadership and your contributions. We appreciate them very much, not only with respect to the Bay, the shore, the region, but to Washington College as well. Thank you. President Landgraf?
Thank you, Wally. It's really fitting that the building that's going to be put here is dedicated to environmental education on the banks of Maryland's prettiest river, and will be named in honor of these two phenomenal Maryland citizens. Both are descendants of the first families to settle in Maryland, so they share a love of history and they share a love of Maryland. Both enjoy traditional outdoor sportsmen's pursuits, so they have a vested interest in protecting and conserving our natural resources. Both are affiliated with the Brown Advisory in Baltimore, one of the finest investment companies in the country. And throughout their lifetimes, both have been compelled by a strong sense of civic duty to forge a legacy of environmental stewardship so that future generations can appreciate and preserve the treasured Chesapeake Bay watershed. Truman Seaman's lifelong leadership in environmental movement, both locally and nationally, has literally changed the world. And Jay Griswold's selfless devotion to this college, as well as his commitment to the Chesapeake Bay, is legendary. Both of these men stand as an inspiration to every one of our students. In the late 1960s, Truman Seaman was among those who conceived the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. In 2014, he was presented with the college's first Lifetime Achievement Award, now named after him. Serving on the Chesapeake Bay Foundation's board for nearly 30 years, he was instrumental in linking the corporate world to the environmental movement. He both helped finance pollution control equipment for industry, but also helped meet the goals of the Clean Air and Clean Water Act. Jay Griswold, who served on the board of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, is Chairman Emeritus of the Board of Visitors and Governors of Washington College, and the parent of a 1994 graduate. The former chairman of Alex Brown Realty and former director of Brown Investment Advisory, Jay served admirably as interim president of the college in 2014 and 15. Much of the money for this $10 million project has come from new sources. A galaxy of environmental enthusiasts who admire and respect Truman Seaman, who is a relative newcomer to the Washington College family. Frankly, I've never seen a fundraising campaign that worked this well, this quickly, and to achieve this goal. This, I believe, is a testament to Truman Seaman and his family, and to the imperative of environmental education. Washington College has received 6 $1 million commitments, specifically from the Bauer Foundation, the Bunting family, Keith Campbell, Ann Horner, Linda and Hank Spire, and one anonymous source. It wasn't me. We are so grateful for your support. Thank you. So beyond the obvious benefits to our students who answer the call to address critical environmental challenges of our age, the Semans-Griswold Environmental Hall also represents a landmark achievement in our ongoing efforts to strengthen the college's partnership with the town of Chestertown and to make this beautiful river a waterfront destination for residents and visitors alike. At this time, I'd like to ask Truman if he'd like to offer a few remarks.
Well, I wasn't certain whether I should offer a blessing or a requiem, but in any case, I listened to all these remarks from all these wonderful people, and I certainly am impressed that Will and Keith got this award. They're two of my best friends and worked with them both for a good many years. Will once was an employee of mine for a day or two. But I'm honored to be here, and thank you for having me. And have just a few things to say. I know no souls are saved after the first 5 minutes, but I am a newcomer to Washington College. My first recollection of Washington College in Chestertown was some 65 years ago, when I was invited to join with two other young members then, the famous Cedar Point Gun Club, which is located on East Neck Island, some 10 miles south of Rock Hall. The club had approximately 1,000 acres and 9 miles of waterfront, divided between the Chesapeake Bay and the Chester River. I fell in love with the Chester River at that time, and the love affair still continues. Some years later, my wife Nellie and I would return to Chestertown and to Washington College for interesting dinners and luncheon parties given by the then president of the college, Doug Cater, and his attractive wife, Libby. The company was excellent. Her table was very good indeed. Those dinners were known as getting to know you dinners that often resulted in a bit of fun, F-U-N, and fundraising, not unlike probably the dinner tonight. But about 10 years ago, my partner, Jay Griswold, invited me to the college to learn about the excellent American Studies program. That isn't the name of the program, but it's the one I've used, which is so very important these days for young Americans, in fact, for all Americans. Later, I was fortunate to know and admire Harry Sears and his extraordinary and unbelievable Chino Farms, with its bird banding operation, its native grasses that were there when John Smith explored the bay many years ago. And of course, its successful restoration of the unconquerable Mr. Bob White. I was completely taken over by the unuseful possibilities and advantages Chino could have and now will have for the superb environmental program at Washington College. That program with Chino will result, in my view, in Washington College being a true national treasure. The environmental program at the college is something I have embraced, and to use a fishing term, embraced hook, line, and sinker. I'm hooked, and my now dear friends and partners, through the good offices of Clinton Daly, and my partners Mike Hankin, John Polton, and with some leadership from Jack Lukemeyer and your chairman Larry Culp, we're all hooked and on the line. And we will all be thrown in the same boat. Fine fish in a great boat. Of course, I'm embarrassed and humbled and unworthy to be honored today. But my friend Jay Griswold, who has labored for years in the vineyard here, he deserves to be honored. I'm sorry my fabulous wife Nellie can't be here today, but she has always supported me in every way, my passion for conservation and the environment. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Truman. He just said to me he's not a public speaker. If he is, and I don't know who is. That was fantastic. Thank you very much. And Jay, let me offer you the opportunity to say a few words too, please.
Well, golly. I'm at a loss for words, but I agree with most everything that's been said. But Kurt, one thing you said is not true, and that is Truman says that Maryland was great and a wonderful place until these merchant princes from Northern Ireland, my ancestors, and Baltimore came and screwed it all up. And that is ironic because now Truman is one of those merchant princes and I'm an impoverished farmer on the Western Shore. So what goes around comes around. But seriously, when I had, and I'm going to put some cards at Truman like you, I need a little prompting. When I had the honor of serving as chair and briefly as interim president of this wonderful institution, the indomitable Laura Wilson, where is she? There she is, standing with Joe Holt over there. She would always script me on occasions like this because nobody was too sure what I might say. And occasionally when I strayed from the script, she and my wife would cringe. And she and my wife have formed a great bond, and it's still operative today. They had lunch together, and if Trump had any sense, he'd hire both of them. The last 25 years, Chestertown and the college have been like having another wife. And Tony has been unbelievably helpful, supportive, and patient. We and my family are incredibly grateful and deeply humbled by the college's decision to put our name alongside our great friends, the Siemens family. Now, thanks to everyone for being here in this beautiful place. It's a very historic day. And 11 million thanks. Kurt, you're also wrong. It's not 10 million, it's 11 million. 11 million thanks for putting up this incredible philanthropy. And the various presidents and members of the board, always guided by John Seidel's wise counsel, have had a vision about how the waterfront could be developed to help achieve the following goal: making Washington College a place for the best undergraduate environmental program at any small liberal arts college in the country. Now that's a lofty goal, and thanks to you guys, Mr. Lukemeyer, et cetera, in the front row here, we're well on our way to making that happen. And why is this moment so unique? It has been mentioned before by others. It is a true coming together of old and new relationships to fulfill a dream of the oldest college in Maryland and the 10th oldest in the nation. Imagine being able to serve on the same board that George Washington did. Pretty extraordinary. And Truman and I like that, and we also like the fact that the enterprise is human in size and international in scope. It's very unique. Old friends like Larry, Harry, Ed, Louisa, Ann, to name just a few, have combined with a new group of folks I'll call friends of Truman to bring John Toll's original vision of the Center for Environment Society closer to fruition. And this all is being built on a very firm foundation, the result of a can-do attitude on behalf of a dedicated faculty and a dynamic administration now led by Kurt Landgraf. Truman, a lot has been said about you, and it is all true. He's without question, and he's a dear friend, and without question, he is a member of another very exclusive club, founders of the environmental movement, which include Nathaniel Reed, Pat Noonan, Raj Morton, Russell Train, and Ted Williams. Nat Reed has written and published a recent book I have with me describing the last 50 years of the movement. It's entitled Travels on the Green Highway. My friend Will Baker, who Truman mentioned wisely hired about 35, 40 years ago, is a member of this exclusive club as well. Now, these guys are giants, as was mentioned, and now are in some way associated with Washington College. And that's very meaningful and unique, because what the enterprise is seeking to do is to produce these type of leaders in the future. And Nancy Jane Reed, I think, is here somewhere. Where's Nancy Jane? There she is in the back row, and her glamorous daughter-in-law. Now, she told me on the way in that sales were a bit slow for this book. But Keith and Will and Truman and everybody, I think we're going to make it, and Kurt, we're going to make it, and John and Larry, we're going to make it required reading for all students, because this is a great story about the last 50 years, what you have to do to make things happen, and how you lead. It's a wonderful, wonderful. So, Nancy Jane, you say you have some extra ones at the house? Okay. We'll be talking to you about that. So, in closing, and I'm the only thing between you and the bar, so I'll close quickly. I just want to thank everybody for making this big effort. And the philanthropy is unbelievable. As Kurt mentioned, nobody's ever seen this kind of thing done in this time frame. And Clinton Daly and all kinds of people involved. But it's really a stunning achievement. And now Kurt, it's up to Washington College to do the rest. And really thank all the wonderful people that Tony and I have met here over the years, and that really have enriched our family. And thank you for that.
Congratulations. So Jay, thank you for pointing out that I was wrong, that it's 11 million. I did want to say if anyone would like to make me more wrong, I'll be hanging around for a while. Just come on up. We can talk, okay? But also, since John mentioned the 6 presidents here, I would be greatly remiss if I didn't turn and thank my boss, Larry Culp, and Clinton Daly, and John Seidel, for what they have done in the last several months. Being the recipient of this somewhat 30 or 40,000 emails that went on between all of these folks. You folks have no idea how much work went into making this happen. So very seriously, John, Larry, and Clinton, who can't be here because his daughter is being married, we greatly appreciate this, and thank you very much for your efforts. So it's now time to dig. So let me please invite Larry and Jay, Truman, to join me up here so we can have our ceremonial groundbreaking.